Oh, I think we can say that.
It'll certainly be a lot less than Pisces than
No way in hell.
No, I know.
Right?
That's what
Across the street, right?
Oh, no.
I mean, I heard it, but it's not that bad.
Goats will take it.
South, yeah. Apparently, the north wind was a mistake. It didn't need to. That's what I heard.
Somebody doesn't know where it flips out.
You could do that. Basically, there. Good, Larry, can you touch that? Testing, testing. Seemed to be good. I could hear you all the way over here.
Usually it's inside.
Right? You want Tom to tell jokes or continue your conversation?
Oh, I do have one.
Uh-oh.
We've got 5 minutes. It'll be quick. This is in response to your little note, Tyler. The very cute joke that you told the nominating committee.
Oh, yes.
The bear and the atheist.
Ollie's favorite, huh?
Yes, well, this one is a taxi driver and a minister pass away, and they're going up to heaven. They're standing at the pearly gates. Peter calls the taxi driver ahead, says, "Come, my son, it's time for you to enter heaven. Here's your robe of silk and your staff of gold. Go forth." So he goes in, calls the minister up. "Here's your robe of burlap and your stick of bamboo." The minister goes, "Here, I've been preaching to everybody for 45 years. Well, I don't understand. It's very simple. When you preached, we slept. When he drove, they prayed."
Your joke is older than mine.
What was yours, Tyler?
Do you really have time for this?
Oh,
We can make time.
we got 3 minutes.
The atheist was enjoying the outdoors. Beautiful river, a gorgeous day, the sky was blue, the mountains were snow capped, and it was beckoning. Everything was splendid, and the atheist was marveling. And then out of the bushes rears this gigantic grizzly bear and starts chasing the atheist. The atheist is getting away, and then kaboom, trips on a root and falls flat on their face. And the bear, of course, is about to leap onto the atheist when the atheist cries out, "Oh God!" And the sky darkened and the lightning flashes and the thunder booms and a big voice from up there says, "Your whole life you deny my existence and now you want my help." And the atheist says, "Yes, please." And the voice says, "What would you have me do?" Well, the atheist is flummoxed. There's no relationship there. There's no skill list with God. No, what does the atheist do? Says, "Oh, could you make the bear a Christian?" And the sky is clear and the lightning stops and the thunder ends and the bear drops to its knees, clasps its paws and says, "Lord, for what we are about to receive." Can I tell an Episcopalian joke now?
Minute warning, can you?
I was joking.
Oh.
They joke in the Episcopal Church?
Oh, that's the joke, yes.
Oh, that didn't sound.
I don't know who sees.
Who is? Is the writing too small to read or?
Charlotte Cooper. That's
Charlotte Cooper,
Charlotte Cooper.
but I don't know who sees.
Charlene is up there.
It's a shelter.
That's Charlotte. It goes with her. Oh, okay, see, oh, I see, yeah, that's Charlotte. Cooper.
It is.
It's Waynesburg.
Oh, let's sing happy
Birthday.
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 Please sing.
Wait.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear one. Happy birthday to you.
How old are you?
Yeah, it's 10 o'clock. We've had our warm-up action. Thank you very much for both of them. Let's get started. So opening remarks today, you might have noticed when the sign was on the door, we had a small executive session this morning to tidy up a matter that we needed to tidy up. It concerns with the succession of officers within the council. I'll be leaving September 1st. You knew that. Tom will be ascending, if that's the right phrase, to president. Yeah, we're keeping up with religious things. And that leaves a vacancy at vice president. We left that question open last time pending resolving it. We did that this morning. Our new vice president will be Larry. Unanimous vote. And Larry has said that he will continue to serve both as the liaison to the board and the corresponding secretary until such time as one or more of those jobs becomes burdensome, and then he can come back and decide what he wants to chuck.
The only thing he left out there, Dave, is all the jawboning that took place in the last 2 weeks to get me to do this.
I wasn't part of that, so I couldn't report. So congratulations, Larry. Does anybody have any other open remarks?
Yes, as I have told the council members in an earlier email, at some future time, when it seems appropriate, I would like to propose an amendment to the bylaws that says that, members cannot serve simultaneously on the council and on the Woodland Pond Board of Directors. And also, I would like to propose, in addition to the bylaws, that when I need to say this is not to be taken personally. That in the future, when there's a vacancy on the council meets and nominations are made by council members for who would fill that vacancy.
Thank you. So, the process of amending the bylaws is, well, you've all observed it. We did it this year. It takes a few months to happen, but it's not impossible to make. So, okay, thank you. Could somebody close the doors? Our sergeant at arms, perhaps. We have 2 sergeants today.
Next question.
Yeah.
What is your feeling about the strength of our policies and procedures? Would it be possible to adopt those suggestions as policies and procedures without going right into making bylaws?
I think in the first instance, no. In the second, yes. I think to legislate a restriction on a council member that seems to have no restriction now might be a bylaw change. I think that the bylaw, that's full stop, new paragraph. I think that the bylaws now say the council appoints a member to fill a vacancy. This could be, doesn't need a bylaw to change that, could just be part of an operating practice. Example, when we appointed John, nobody else came forward with a nomination. He was my nominee. They could have, it would have been, considered. So I'm saying for yes, a bylaw change to the meeting. would be needed to restrict a council member from serving both places, but maybe not a bylaw change for appointing a council member. You asked, that's my answer. I don't know if others have different answers.
What I'm trying to do is find a. Just trying to see. That does work.
Just before, so,
Which is.
so I'll show them how to get that.
There we go. Okay, I'm just trying to explore whether or not there is a way to make Molly's suggestions into our operating procedure until such time as we get around to amending the bylaws, which is not impossible, but takes a long time.
Again, I think my answers would not be no for the first and yes for the second. My answers.
I can't even remember which was the first.
But the first one is to do with whether or not we could serve on both the board and the council. I would say that would be a bylaw change to me. The second instance, I think not, Carl.
Why would that have to be a bylaw change if we could? It could be an operating procedure.
The
people on Zoom can't
hear unless you have the mic.
It could probably become an operating procedure until such time as we make it a bylaw change. I would propose that we accept it as an operating procedure.
I would propose we do that, anything like that during the session. We were just gonna do an open remarks now. If you wanna do it later, we can talk more, but I think we have a pretty full morning. We'll see what the time brings. And it's not mattering for today, anyway. Anybody else wanna opine on that one? Okay, first year's session. Okay, cool.
We have one meeting going now.
Alice,
Alice, we have one meeting going,
Please.
thank you.
yes, approval of the minutes from June 19th.
I approve.
One small correction.
Okay,
Toward the end of the minutes, a reference is made to Lindsay as the executive secretary. She's the executive assistant.
One other minor thing, in the report, I think from landscape, it said that the spruce trees in the entry driveway were being pulled up. Those are Bradford pears, the ones that were pulled up were Bradford pears, and I don't know how critical that is.
okay.
They were not spruce.
Okay, so having heard that, are there any more adjustments or? I move we approve as amended. Second, somebody? Okay, call the question. Okay, thank you. Approval of the minutes from the June 19th executive session. I didn't see anything. I made one little thing and we got it all straightened out, so we okay with that? Oh, thank you. I know you weren't there, John. Okay, thank you. Communications received and sent by corresponding secretary.
Nothing received in the copy, but there was a email sent directly to me in my personal email, not to the council email, but anyway, from Joe Cosentino, and it had to do with whether or not the council has procedures as to how committees are supposed to operate. And Joe provided some documentation that he apparently got from one of the binders in the library. And that, anyway, that resulted in a considerable back and forth amongst the council members and Joe over the last week. So I would hesitate at this point to try to summarize that whole thing. But perhaps the council should talk about that now, or do you want to defer it?
It's correspondence, we need to respond to it. Have you?
Well, the upshot of it, of the discussions that we have had amongst the board, the council over the last week is that the documents that Joe was referring to, sometimes he referred to them as the bylaws, and they were not in fact the bylaws. And they also, those documents were have been superseded since those were initially approved more than a year ago. And I think if I'm remembering correctly, Tom, you provided a correction of sorts to you eliminated things and corrected things and.
Yes, well, Joe had several points.
I see Joe's in the room, so Joe, give you a chance to opine on this too.
Anyway, yes, there were some references to policies that were in place but were replaced through the process of changing our bylaws to make them more consistent. And in doing that, the addendum that we had in the policies and procedures did not match the new bylaws, so they were changed. All of that was approved in council, was sent to all of the residents for review and comment. All comments were noted and reviewed in making up so the new bylaws are in the library in a binder that's called Woodland Pond Bylaws. That has been updated. It also contains the bylaws, the current bylaws of the corporation, and a copy of the Woodland Pond Handbook. So if you're looking for all that documentation, it's in there with an index indicating the version and date of those documents. So a lot of the questions Joe had, and I think I have his communication, we can respond directly to Joe. And if you would like to share it with the community. Yeah, would you want us to reshare the response to your letter to the community?
So I don't think anybody knows what my letter said, so the response may not make sense. Thank you. I don't think anybody here knows what my letter said, so your response probably won't make sense. Would you like to read my letter? Would you like me to just quickly recap what my concerns were?
Condense, please.
Yeah, I'll condense. I hear the Reader's Digest version. So I looked at the old bylaws in the library from 2023. They had 2 pages attached at the end directing committees how to pick chair and vice chair, and saying that every committee needed a chair and a vice chair. Then I read the new bylaws. That's not there anymore. There's nothing that says the committees have to have a chair and vice chair, or even how to have a chair. How does a chair come about? One of the committees I'm on, someone by email said I'm stepping down as chair and I appoint so-and-so to replace me. And I said, well, wait a minute, I thought chairs were elected by committees, not appointed. Well, there's nothing now in the new bylaws that says how committee chairs are appointed. Or if you need a vice chair, which, let's face it, people of our age, it's nice to have a vice chair. If somebody has a doctor's appointment or something, the chair can't make the meeting. There's nothing anymore that says that in the bylaws. So my recommendation is to look at that 2023 list of things and maybe pull some things out of it as an addendum to the current bylaws, so committees know how to function in terms of chair and vice chair. The new bylaws don't even say in there that the chair has to submit an annual report, or really what the chair even does. So I just think my advice was that the council look at this and perhaps do some kind of policies and procedures amendment.
Can I comment on that?
Sure.
I've been
Thank you, Joe.
I arrived here in 2016, and almost from the get-go, I have been a member of two different committees here. And one of those committees has even undergone a name change from the early days. And I've been the chair, for better or worse, of that particular committee for a good 5 years, if not a little longer. I've forgotten exactly. And all I can say is that it's a practical matter, and in day-to-day or month-to-month practice, we have never felt the lack of direction. We knew what we were doing. We're adults. We've worked in academia, which has a multiplicity of committees, as anyone who's been in that environment can attest. So I think it's unnecessary and superfluous, and maybe even a little insulting to tell us exactly how we're supposed to run a committee.
On the other hand, you heard Tom say a moment ago that, first of all, they weren't bylaws you were looking at, they were policy and procedures. Okay, so let's be clear of our terms. The bylaws were just updated and they don't reference that. The policies and procedures, Tom said, were found to be out of date and how to say this, not well received by the committees that they were intended to govern. And so they weren't actually ever enforced. And so we will continue to look at that, but right now that document is void. But remember, there was 2 pages of that document that talked about what this council or this resident community would do to in response to the need for replacing resident directors. Well, those things are void because that's not how the board wanted to operate. So things are changing, have changed. Is it? Okay. And the other correspondence, Larry.
Not,
What did you?
no other correspondence.
Where are
There was one sent to you or sent to the thing from the chair of the nominating committee, asking us to approve today the positions on the nominating committee.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand that was sent only to me as correspondence. I thought it was
No, it was sent to the Woodland Pond,
to the council.
WPRC 100. And I sent it out to everybody.
I haven't looked in the last day and a half or thereabouts.
Maybe look in save files.
Okay, I will do that.
But anyway, the chair of the nominating committee has, as part of our own business, given us the names of the committee that we need to approve in session.
Well, we moved right out of
So,
communications into old business, so let's go. Sure.
okay.
No, that she's in the realm.
Yes, she's gonna have to help me. Don't seem to have my correspondence to you guys. Anyway,
I remember seeing the document, but I don't.
okay, the nominating committee is Sue Gilder, chair. Wayne Lavender and Tyler Jones, Jill Ortner, and Paul Farges. They have all agreed to volunteer for this nominating 2025. I motion that the board or the council accept the committee.
Is Carl seconding?
I'll second.
Well, let's get it, before
get-
discussion, let's get a second, so we have a motion. I'll second the motion.
Okay,
Discussion.
discussion?
I suspect this is a change in procedure and probably not necessary. In the past, when I was chair of the committee, I was appointed by the president of the council. I formed a committee and we set about our work. I don't think it's the business of the council, once a committee is formed, to approve them or disapprove them.
How can they be formed till we approve them?
We,
Okay, it is in the bylaws that, we approve all committees, of council committees, so, membership. Last meeting, we did have a item for the agenda that we would form a nominating committee, so it was agreed at that meeting that we do it this way, Carl. Not have just somebody, go around and point to the phone book and say, okay, that person's now the chair.
I'm not sure where that is in the handbook. I'll believe you it's there, but in the bylaws,
65.1.
but I don't think it should be there.
Well, that's the bylaws we just went through. So, but regardless, the motion is to approve the nominating committee as noted. You have a second?
I seconded it, so we have a motion.
Second.
That was some discussion. Is there other discussion? Call the question.
Call. All in favor?
I was not in favor, so the rest of the vote is. Yeah, continue, Tom.
Okay, and the other, motion is for the nominating committee to be advised as of the new bylaws under Article 3.4.1 that all candidates that are, discussing and, approved for submission as a slate of candidates be advised that their term can be adjusted from the 3 years that's in the bylaws to another number that allows the council to adjust the balance of the number of people. Because right now there's 5 of us going off the council, 5 coming on. 3 will go on for 3 years, 2 will go on for 2 years. The decision of that is still an open topic, but we'll get to that as we get closer to the election, I guess, yeah, the election time. But that is a motion that I make.
Second.
Okay, any discussion on that? Okay, all in favor? Aye, thank you. That's the old business that I have for,
Okay,
oh, excuse me, no, sorry.
got the microphone.
I got the mic, yeah. There is a document sent out to the council that, describes the expectations. I think you've all gotten that. I sent you an expectations for the nominating committee for the candidates coming on. Gives a philosophy of what the residents council is for and what the council members should be abiding by, and some typical tasks that a council member will receive. This was asked by the committee so that when they tell the prospective candidates what it is that they're in favor of. So, I would like to table it for now, and at the next meeting, we will update it and issue it to the nominating committee.
So you're still looking for feedback from the council on
I
that?
am.
This strikes me as unnecessary, a little bit smacking of a loyalty oath, and is in any case misplaced because by our procedures now, if somebody has not been selected by the nominating committee, they still have full rights to self-nominate at the meeting in which the nominees are introduced to the public. So I'm not sure the committee should be able or should feel it necessary to tell candidates what we expect of them. If they have stated that they want to run, that's their choice.
Those seats are reserved.
There's a reserve, we have people coming.
Yes,
Yeah.
Here.
There's a couple seats in the audience.
Okay,
Were you interrupted? I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Okay, again, the council, the committee has asked us to provide them the information. That's, how does that go against? They're just asking us just to make it easy for the candidates to do it. As you've always said, everybody has said, it's very difficult to get people to step forward to take this job. Not only for 2 years and now 3 years or whatever, but it's, I think our responsibility is to support the nominating committee with what they asked for. And that document is circulated. The feedback I got was, okay, let's look at it. Okay, the rest of your cohorts up here have looked at it, and that's the position.
Well, we're not finished with it yet, it's still an open document, but I respond to your point, Carl, about self-nomination. Yes, somebody can self-nominate, but I, as an audience member, would then say, well, do you also agree with all of this, or are you aware of all this? And ask that person to affirm, yea or nay, or to affirm.
Well, that very much sounds like a loyalty of, if somebody wants to self-nominate, the membership of Woodland Pond can reject them,
Yeah.
but not, there's no necessity for them to agree to what's on a piece of paper.
No.
That's true.
All right, so,
Hasn't changed.
no, so we're gonna
Table it.
defer this, as you suggested, to our next meeting, which would be July 17th, so make sure it gets on the agenda. We have a couple minutes before Jason and Carrie come. Want to start the committee reports, or you want to go to our new council connections right now? The only thing we have scheduled is we have Larry going to interview Lindsay on the 17th. There's some other things in the works. We'll see what happens with that. And you want to start the committee reports? Maybe we can get one or two of them done. John, you don't have anything for benefit fund or library, all right?
Yeah.
Okay, Mel's not here for his, we're moving right along. Nothing for mental health or welcome? Great. Land conservation, Larry? No, but you had something, you said you had a small board before. Only we can pass it down to Larry. Okay.
Just a quick note, the board meeting, which I have always heretofore this year attended via Zoom, because that's the way those particular meetings were run. This time it was in person, right in this room, in fact, and I attended that for the first 10 minutes or thereabouts, and I was made to feel quite welcome, and they had already seen the written document that had been forwarded to them of my report, and I was asked a couple of questions about it, and I felt it was important to highlight that there were certain activities that had taken place here for the month of June, which was Pride Month, and I in particular singled out the event that featured Dawn Sangre and her role in the days when gay marriages had not yet been legalized. So they were very interested to hear that. And one member of the board, who happens to be a retired pastor himself, commented further on that. So I thought it was a useful few minutes, and I appreciated being made to feel welcome. And I was asked to attend the little wine and cheese at the end of the meeting, so that was okay, very well.
And right on cue, here come our official guests for this morning, so we'll just
Go, you can see.
I just saw them walk by. What are they doing?
Sign,
Erwin, would you open it up to Jason and Carrie right outside?
they're signing in.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Right, so.
You better say that.
All right.
So for the benefit of the audience, Jason and Carrie have asked to come before us this morning to make a presentation about a committee that we would like to, I am in favor of, but we'll hear everybody else too, regarding activities within Woodland Pond. So they have provided us with a summary document, which you can refer to. We hadn't passed it all out. And Jason, you can proceed any way you want, but remember, you're addressing the council and audience, they're addressing the council. If we have time for a Q&A later, we'll get to it. I think our expectation is they'll give us a lot of information today. We'll chew on it. We won't make, I don't think we're gonna make any kind of final decision without community input. And I think that that's the expectation of Jason and Carrie as well. So, take it away. Do you want 2 microphones?
Jump in when needed.
Jason. Stand if you want, sit if you want, however you want to do it.
Okay, I'll sit. I feel like I'm addressing the Shark Tank. Good morning, sharks. Here's my proposition. Good morning. So, we are proposing an activities committee. We're wanting it to be a resident-led combined committee with a staff member that collaborates on both community management to plan, coordinate, and enhance social, recreational, educational, and wellness activities for our residents. So we're really hoping that it is a committee that can start creating events, particularly educational programming, fitness programming, social events such as game nights, dances, mixers, outings, cultural celebrations, and I see a need for weekend and weeknight offerings. And I feel that, especially in my first month of talking to everyone, activities should not be, and especially bus trips and plannings, should not be one person's choice. And I'm really hoping to get a lot of voices within this committee to help support a more robust activities programming schedule here at Woodland Pond. We would have chair people, including just like a regular committee structure, and we're hoping to create term limits for each of the different positions. We still are figuring that out, but we would like to propose term limits for all of them. And that's what I have so far.
I'll just add 2 more things. We do want to have health center engagement on the committee, or whether it's through resident or staff. We'd like at least 1 staff member from health center activities on the committee. And then, potentially if we can get a health center resident, at least 1 on the committee as well, just so we can get more collaboration between independent living and the health center through this committee. To talk a little bit more about the terms, again, we're still in like preliminary discussions on how that would work, but in an ideal world, we wouldn't have 12 people sitting on a committee forever. It would be rotating, like yearly rotating out of 4 people. You'd have to spend a year off the committee, and then you can come back on, just so we have fresh faces each year onto the activities committee.
Jason, you mentioned the number 12. Is that more or less your operating thought that you'd have?
12 just makes it an even number, especially when we're rotating on and off. In an ideal world, it would be 12, so we get, residents from all different views, all different interests, not just a group of 4 or a group of 5. We would like, again, we don't know how many people are going to be interested. We would like a minimum of 12, and then not including staff.
Questions from the council? You've seen that their proposal. Go ahead.
There are so many committees and interest groups that already do this. To me, it seems it would be duplicating an awful lot of work other committees do and overriding some of their purpose.
So I'll answer that. We don't see it that way. Most of the committees, we're not asking for like a committee member from every committee to come to the activities committee, but the activities committee is there kind of to look towards the future, or look towards next month, or look towards 3 months from now to see what's going on. And then the committees like you're talking about, if they have an idea of something they want to propose to have within the community, they can bring that idea to the activities committee. So it's not a duplicate of what you're doing. It's not adding to the work. This is just a place for all of activities.
I also wanna add, another point of the activities committee is for resident engagement. We really do see, the residents who would be joining the committee as liaisons, to encourage, engagement, going, knocking on doors, inviting neighbors, saying, hey, there's an event coming up, we would really love to have you there, as more of like a social engagement. In addition to planning events, planning outings, planning bus trips, planning galas, dances, etc. That is a pain point I feel that isn't being utilized right now in a lot of the other committees, and I do not see the interest groups in this committee as mutually exclusive. I do see them working together, but we're not trying. I know people have their routines and their schedules and their love of their interest groups and going to them. And we are not trying to override that. We do see them as separate, but also working in tandem.
We need 3 microphones.
I see your point, but I'm looking at the overall finance. There's a finite budget for bus trips, for galas and so on and so forth, bringing in a disc jockey that costs money. So I'm assuming that this committee would be overseeing that budget.
Question mark?
We talked about this quick when the 3 or the 5 of us spoke. There's a budget for like special events. I know there's a budget for certain concerts that we have in the PAC. There's a budget for the catering events that we have for different events. That has historically lived with Sarah. It's now transferring to Carrie and I. So the committee is not going to be responsible for the budget, but the committee may have an idea of what that budget is and where that money's going for certain things. And not specifically for bus trips, because bus trips, this committee will deal with bus trips as well with new ideas. It's more for brainstorming of ideas and looking towards 4th of July is tomorrow. Do we have anything scheduled for tomorrow? We have a barbecue outside, but the committee will be able to, plan accordingly. St. Patrick's Day next year, let's have, Guinness in the. It's just, that's just an example. Again, it's without this committee, I think we've always relied on Gretchen to figure things out. And this will now give resident input and Carrie to, brainstorm about what we can do, and more things we can do. So, thank you.
One role that I could foresee the committee possibly fulfilling, the committee of which I'm chair has been sponsoring every other month talks, lectures, presentations, whatever you want to call them. And my role in that has been multifaceted, because now that there's more of a bureaucracy in place in terms of getting acknowledgements and approvals and so on, that's sort of the things that maybe the committee could help to facilitate. So there'd be less burdensome on the individual committee. And maybe if there are honorariums they offered, which up until now we have not been able to do. But
so I do know what you're referring to, and we don't have to dive too deep into it. And that won't be part of the committee, but we will take over the brunt of that one way or another, but it won't go through the committee. But I do know what you're talking about.
So it's invited speakers. That's going to stay that's going to be Lindsay's.
Okay,
That's going to be
whatever.
Well,
Whatever works.
yeah, hopefully that will work, because it'll be one point as opposed to everybody gets it.
Lindsay or Carrie, we'll figure that out.
Yeah, well, the other day Michelle said Lindsay stuff. But it's not to diminish the role of any committee's scope or you talked about our landscape committee, one thought I had as a relation to an activity, if you will, that the committee does is the cleanup. That Jason's already been doing that, although titularly it's somehow it seems to be us. I would just as soon, I think I mentioned in our last meeting, hand that over to him and say, Jason, be going, get us a van, whenever it is, you're welcome to come too, help pick up the trash. But there's probably other things that other committees do that could be moved over, and I have one big one we can talk about later. Others, first thoughts, first impressions?
Can you elaborate more on the combining or the cooperation with the health center and things like that? Where are your, say, lofty goals set for that?
So this started early on in the interview process with Carrie. Like one of the first points that I brought up was to get more collaboration with the health center, and you know, we're still gonna have to figure out how we can do it. But yeah, not to dive too deep in this, but I will say that you know, most of the people sitting in this room and just the overall thought of Woodland Pond, you know, the initial thought when moving to the health center, I don't want to dive too deep in it, but you know, there's just that not negative thought, but it's just it's a thought that people have that, you know, you don't really want to go to the health center, you don't want to go to assisted living, or you know, you just have these ideas of the health center. And we just want to get more collaboration with health center activity staff and health center residents. I mean, Larry can speak on it too, because he sees it, but we just need more interaction, more residents from the health center coming to IL, more IL activities in the health center, whether it's the great room or outside, or, you know, we're just trying to find, not 50-50, but just some happy medium where everybody is just collaborating together.
So it'd be activities for the community, not activities for IL or health center.
And that's within, obviously, there's limitations that we have, and there's certain regulations in the health center that we have to, you know, follow and work with the health center activity staff who know more about it than Carrie and I do. But we're just looking for more interaction and more integration between the health center and Independent.
Okay, I push that. I think that would be excellent for the community, because they are our community and we are their community, so let's do it.
Carl?
It all sounds absolutely wonderful. My feeling is that in the past, usually committees have sort of come into existence and then come to us to validate them. I think you may be going the other way and want it to be validated first and then set up the committee. Is that necessarily the only way to go? And what are you asking of us exactly?
Yeah. So management asks that the residents' council consider forming an activities committee. And Michelle said this to me a month or so ago, and Jason and I have had a couple of meets as a reference. And I, as chair, said, yes, come make a presentation and we'll see what the rest of the gang thinks. I think it's a wonderful idea to have an activity committee that with the scope that they propose. I'm not sure what an objection might be or what the roadblock might be to that.
So is a motion to accept the proposal in order?
I think so, and then we'll decide how we're gonna advertise it to the community and seek input.
Would it be our job to sell it to the committee? It would be the committee's job. The committee chair. I make a motion that we accept the proposal.
Okay, the proposal specifically being what, so I know what I'm voting on.
To create an activities committee with Gary and Jason as the organizers.
So
There's outlined by then as organizers, you said. Is there a second for that one? Is there a discussion on the motion? Okay, I call the question. All in favor? So what has happened, Jason, is you and Gary are now gonna do the organizing, the advertising, which is fine. You're gonna be better at communicating it than we are. We would like to have a council liaison, I think, not speaking out of turn, when the time comes. And, go forth and prosper.
Thank you, Sharks.
Was there anything else you wanted to say? So just by showing hands, is that, I think is a good idea, what Carl's idea was, that's not practical, y'all, that they will get some information out and you can all put your names in when the time comes and all that, rather than this group of folks dictating how you run, man. You can take a couple questions.
Yeah.
Are there, I don't wanna, I'm running on, but just a couple, 2 or 3 questions, not Yakov, anybody else?
Yeah,
Here we go.
I'm a little confused because, I mean, on one hand, I think we have quite a lot of activities. My experience with Gretchen usually has not been that, I mean, we decide what activities we do, so we bring it to her to coordinate it, so it's available, we don't conflict too much with other things that are going on. And it sounds to me, and I just echo what, was said before, how is this going to work with all the committees that are doing a lot of things? Just, I personally am already involved in 3 committees and we do things, we do events, we do discussions and so on. And it's not quite clear how this is going to be different or better.
Hold on to that one, I'll get you one, pass you on. I'll do your job.
So we don't have all the answers, but, and I don't know the percentages. But in terms of the committees, I would say, less than 50% of all the activities that happen in Woodland Pond are committee, generated. I would say less than that, maybe even less than 25%. Most of the activities that are on our activities calendar are, fitness related or, just things that happen, month to month that aren't part of a committee. So the things that the committees do is separate. That's, of course, it's all gonna fall under activities because it's gonna fall on our activities calendar, but the activities committee that we're gonna put together is gonna talk like what I just answered before, is just get more resident input, on a monthly basis to look towards, the next month or 3 months or 5 months or something big, or, instead of putting it all on Cameron Ilgner, which he was here to do the gala, that a lot of those talks would happen with the committee. What do the residents want to see of this? Instead of the conversations happening through email or over a phone call or stopping by someone's desk, or when Lindsay did the last one, the committee would have a say and get, more of an opinion on what we're gonna do and how we're gonna do it. And also, be, with Carrie or with me as we're doing things. If the committee wants to be involved with some of the activities and have all the committee members there and help promote it, instead of just us putting out a bulletin and say, hey, come to this. And just hearing it from management Q&A, is residents at the committee say, hey, we've got this going on next month, let's, and Carrie brought up the idea of door knocking, we're not gonna be doing door knocking, but it's, again, it's Mary Evans talking to her neighbor saying, hey, we've got this going on, I'm throwing Mary Evans in, but that's, again, it's just getting more resident involvement in, activities.
I think we would avoid duplication and perhaps fill in gaps as well.
There are gaps.
Yeah, no, that's what they're trying to fix. Thank you. Well, I heard that Carrie said off hours, when I talked to her, she's thought maybe some earlier morning, not 6 a.m. calisthenics, but some earlier morning or later afternoon into the evening activities, but weekends there's less to do on weekends. John?
I went down the list after our meeting of all the interest groups and committees and everything, and there was one thing that seemed to be missing to me as a musician. Who sends you suggestions for concerts or outside musical events? And that's not on here, so I'm assuming that's gonna be more the purview of your committee until we get an interest group for that.
Right, so
No, go ahead, Jason. Oh, you need a microphone, sir.
So we didn't talk about it, completely. I don't see anyone in the room. So historically, it was to talk about outings, music events. It was Gene Sutmeyer, it was Charles Platt, and it was Annette Johnson, yeah. Who used to meet with Gretchen years ago. Then it was Lisa, but now we're gonna bring the trip planning to the activities committee to get involvement from the residents, to get more ideas. And again, we try different things. We always put different things on the monthly trip list, but now this trip list will live with the activities committee.
I think an activities committee is a great idea. You may remember a year and a half ago when I moved in, I asked you right in the library, do we have an activities committee? And we didn't at that time. So I think it's a good idea. But I have two questions, one for you and one for the council. So the first one is, as you know, in June, for Gay Pride, our group had about 10 different activities. So next June, would we come to you with these activities and would you have to approve them, not approve them? Or could we just say, we'd like to do these, can you help us? So that's the first thing. For the council, no other committee at this point, to my knowledge, has term limits. So how would that work to have one committee with term limits and nobody else has term limits?
I would hope that everybody would emulate the term limit committee. That's me. As we've decided, the committees have very few borders or restrictions on how they can operate. If this is how this committee wants to operate, hooray. There are already two committees who have self-selected to have rotating chairs on a 2-year basis, the Health Committee and the Art and Decor. Hooray for them. When 6 months ago or a year ago, there was proposed a invited speakers committee. One of the things they had in it was term limits. Hooray. So that the sentiment, I think, is out there in the community. I fully support it. I'm not quite sure how we can encourage other committees to abide by that or to take that on, but I certainly myself, one guy, endorse it because it's going to keep it fresh. Tom, and then we'll make Tom the last one so Jason and Karen can go do a victory lap.
Answer, James.
So yeah,
I didn't mean
to answer your first question. So most of you know, I'm not a person that says no. So and Carrie is probably similar. So we're not here to tell anyone no, they can't do something. And for something like that, for Pride Month, that doesn't necessarily have to go through the committee. You've already got the stuff scheduled. You could just go to Carrie with things like that. Again, the committee is not set up to tell anyone no, or we're gonna do things different, or this is just, a place for ideas and a place for resident interaction, with Carrie or myself or the health center activity staff. It's just, again, it's not here to tell anyone how to do things or to do anything differently.
Jason, just a question, I think it was answered, when you have a budget.
Well, there is a budget, there is a yearly budget that Sarah has always maintained. So the activities committee is not necessarily gonna have a budget, but the activities committee is gonna understand and be involved with the budget that does exist. So there is a budget, but it's not necessarily for the activities committee, it's for activities for independent living. Does that answer? No?
I guess the confusion is with the benefit fund, which one of their funds is to pay for performers that charge a substantial fee. How is that related to what you would do?
Yeah, Carrie just said it's not mutually exclusive, but it's not, it's separate. So I guess events like that, so we had, who did we have? We had the concert, like did the Key of Q get paid by the benefit fund?
No.
No?
No, they were paid, but not by the fund.
The folk singers, I think.
There was a concert recently that was paid by the benefit fund. Those would still possibly just flow through Carrie. We'll figure that out. But that's separate. It's not part of the activities fund, and the activities committee might be involved with, the planning and the coordinating, but then, go to the benefit fund for funding.
Could I ask, as we go forward with this, you've prepared for the council a very excellent document, a draft of the basis of the concept. Can we share with community? Can you put it out as maybe something in Woodland and Chanticleer, or have it at the concierge that people can pick up and read it and have your inputs sent back to the council or directly to you guys so you can see it. And you have like a couple weeks of, let it get into the thread of life here.
Yeah, we'll make a few more edits to it after today.
Yeah.
And probably get it out early next week.
Great.
Maybe I'll have Lindsay send it out through Constant Contact to all the residents, and then we can have some copies at concierge.
Yes.
Can we just? And this group here show how we approve of it. We said that.
Yeah, for those in TV world and audience member said that just by the show of hands earlier, you can see that the group attending is very much in favor of moving forward with this. So thank you. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Carrie. I hope that was a good shark experience. I hadn't thought that there was any relationship there. So thank you. Yeah, thank you, Jason. Okay, back to our committee reports. I think we're up to dining.
So the dining committee met on last Tuesday, and Robert Brunet and Charles Platt resigned, and Len Rossman came on as a new member. We approved that. Carrie came to the meeting to talk to us about the formation of the activities committee, and they specifically had two suggestions to give to the dining committee as potential activities. And one was to organize a murder mystery dinner, which would be a long event. It would include, I don't know if any of you have been to these things, but a company comes in and sets up a murder mystery, and there are clues and things, and then you have dinner, and then people try and solve the mystery. So the dining committee approved that. And another suggested event was a campfire event in which they would do s'mores. And the idea was approved, although I am not so sure that our fire pit can handle s'mores. I think dripping marshmallows onto those rocks is not going to work.
You make it sound so fun. Let's drip marshmallow.
It's approved as a good idea, and the committee will work with Phil on setting these up in the future. Food is, people feel happy with the food, and the only sort of negative comment was that there are inconsistencies in the entrees. And Phil did say that the cooks do vary from day to day, and sometimes they do make modifications. He also said that he has found a source of containers for takeout which are not black, and hopefully fairly soon we will be getting those in. He also said that paper straws he thinks could be offered. There was a lot of discussion about the plastic straws and the paper straws. All the pastas will be, all the entree pastas will be available gluten-free. And he said that the so-called dirty dozen of vegetables that have the most pesticides in them, fruits and vegetables, will be replaced by organic as of late July. And that was about it.
Comments on dining from the gang?
June, you mentioned the two new members or one new member came on.
Len Rossman came on as a new member of the dining committee. Oh, sure, you want to do that?
I'll second.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, fine. Yes, at the moment, one new person. Unless, I don't know if you previously approved Marie Howard.
No, we haven't.
Oh, okay, because she's now on the committee.
All right, so you
Proposed two members.
Yes, yes.
Just state.
I propose that the dining committee wants approval for the appointment of Marie Howard and Glenn Rossman as members.
That's your motion?
Yeah.
There's a second. John thirds.
any discussion? All in favor?
Questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Would you finish voting, please?
And opposed?
And abstain?
Sure.
Okay. Carl abstains. I like that although Jason and Carrie didn't mention that these are some of the ideas that are percolating in her and in him, and so you can see it's reaching out in directions that I hadn't thought of before myself. I don't know if y'all have, but I like it. I like them both. Other for Jim, you have anything for sustainability, Jim?
No, there was no meeting.
Carl? Health Center. Yeah, it was.
But I reported last time.
Okay, Physical Plan Committee, a bunch of interesting stuff. The gazebo by the retention pond needs repair, and Paul Farges is willing to do it, but no decision was made. Goats. We're proposing goats to be fenced in on the slope behind the cottages to keep down the weeds and the grass and the poison ivy. There is a company which will put up a fence. We'll pay for it, but they'll put it up and they'll bring in the goats and leave them as long as it takes in each season. They'll probably bring them twice a year. It's fairly expensive. It's going to cost $13,000 the first year because we're including the cost of the fence, and then about $4,000 or $5,000 per year after that. And Tom hopes to start it in the fall. Now, right now, the way we operate is the landscape people cut that grass twice a year. Tom figures it'll take about 3 years to pay for itself and be profitable to have the goats do it. We took a vote and the group approved, but there was some opposition. Jason talked about holding social events in the courtyard, for example, s'mores nights. So we've discussed that. Fire detection panel in the health center failed, and by code, we had to have a man walk up and down the halls every 30 minutes until the transformer was repaired, and that was about 3 days. And he had to do nothing but that, and so that worked. But now the system is repaired. The HVAC updates in the pool deck, 2 transformers were blown out by electric spikes, but they were under warranty, so they were repaired. The new units that are coming on for HVACs will not be blasting the cold air or the hot air as they do right now. They'll have a much finer sensitivity and be able to do something for constant air circulation so that you're not, hopefully, in the dining room, sooner or later, you won't have that problem of sitting in a blast of cold air when the room gets too hot. And finally, the issue of blue lights, which you probably don't know about, or maybe you do.
Talking about.
Has it been discussed? Okay, then that's it.
Okay, from the table.
Any questions?
Well, just a comment. I mean, I don't understand why we need the blue lights in addition to the white lights that already flash. Seems to me it's superfluous and expensive.
The blue lights, unlike the white lights, are not connected to the fire alarm system. It's an independent system indicating that there is a lockdown, a shooter or whatever reason. But it's not tied to the fire alarm system, so we control when it goes on or off. The fire chief doesn't.
So about the goats, I played a golf course that has used goats for cliff maintenance, if you want to call it that, and they happen to be owned by one of the groundskeepers, but they really do a damn good job, and they're fun to watch. And I don't know, probably some of you others have seen goats in action in other places. They're kind of neat to watch, I guess. I hope we do it.
Just to finish off, June, it's a trend now for New Paltz, SUNY New Paltz has it, the schools are putting them in. It's very much a coming thing, so that you don't have an alarm going off, but you recognize that it's an activity and you take the proper steps to either sequester in place or find shelter and stay there until you get the all clear. So it's a upcoming kind of thing, and they're trying to get in before codes are made that make it even more expensive to put in. Yes, Larry?
It's my understanding that. It's my understanding that among other things, the blue light system would be activated, for example, if either the concierge or the reception in health center were to to engage their panic button, which is always in place under their desks, and that would pressing that would automatically activate the blue lights, as well as automatically closing all external doors and locking them, and so on and so forth. So that would be independent of any fire emergency.
Okay, so it wouldn't set off the fire alarm?
No fire alarm, just the blue lights.
Carl, you have something for health center also? No, for there. Tom, you had nothing? You got nothing, okay. That takes us down to new business. Item 2, we did item 1 was vacation and carry the council document storage in the library.
Okay, part of the concerns that Joe raised in his letter, did a survey of the binders in the library, and one of the binders when I first processed the new bylaws wasn't there. It has been returned. It's been updated. It's in there now, and then just so you all know, it has an index telling you what's in there. Right now, what's in there is the Woodland Pond Residents Council bylaws of June 5th with version July 1st. There were some corrections of misspellings of names and committee or interest group that no longer exists. I updated that, but it does have the very latest version of our bylaws and the policies and procedures, and to basically address the reason that we don't have all that information, Joe, about what the committees, when we put that in, the feedback was we might as well have been shot, because the committees almost totally disagreed with this abundance of control. So we said, if we can't enforce it, don't put it in. So it was taken out. So that's one of the changes. Also in the binder is the latest version. When I found it, they had the version of Woodland Pond Incorporated in there of 22. They have now, you'll find in the binder the latest version of their bylaws of October 24. And included in the binder is the latest version of the handbook. So if you're looking for all those documents, those little small black book, do use it, but do keep it in the library. Okay, thank you.
Don't remove it from the library.
Correct. Yes, please. You can make copies, but don't displace it. Yes, Jakob.
Are these copies also available on the Woodland Pond website?
We're having discussions about that. We think that they should be on there, but they may not be because they're going through still, I guess, having technical problems. At least that's what was reported.
Okay, moving on. I think we're done. Oh, well, except for here, but circling back to what this committee might encompass. There exists now in Woodland Pond, I can't call it, I want to call it an activity, I'm not even sure it's that, called Council Connections, which we Yakov and I and George Brown and Wayne have been kind of running for a few years. People come, people go, this and that. When I heard that Jason wanted to do this committee, I thought that would be a good opportunity to slide council connections over to them. Really, the council has not much to do with this at all, except to acknowledge that certain interviews are going to take place at a certain cycle. So I say to the council, if you don't object, I'd like to hand this off, and they can keep the main council connections. The function will continue, maybe with one or two of the guys who've been doing it advising, or other people advising. It also came to pass that a couple of us have been doing this, have just decided we don't want to do it. Don't want to be part of it anymore for no reason other than we're just going to tired of doing it. So I think sliding that over to Jason's committee, and you all who form the committee can talk about that in greater detail. I would think that you would want to keep some of the people as a resource, or at least checking that once in a while, because there's a pretty good history of what's been happening and what frequency. So I'm not looking for a motion, because it's never really been something that moves and approves, etc. I'm just saying I think it should go there. Other points of view on that?
Sounds sensible to me. We might even think of renaming it the Community Connection rather than Council. Better reflect, I think, what we're trying to do.
And you might recall in the beginning of this, it was you who said that another alternative name for it might be Council Conversations.
Okay.
It was your. So anyway, yeah, they call it what they want. I think it should continue. I think people look forward to learning about their colleagues or their assignment managers, or other visible folks around here. I don't think it should disappear. Just think it could become part of that activities committee. Yeah, it's a good idea. Okay.
All I would suggest is that your group, before it disbands or disintegrates, lack of help, form a committee or a group form that's in the bylaws, fill it in and what you want done and how it's done. Can you do that? Because I don't think there's one been done.
Well, exactly. We've never really had a status in the community, or claimed a status in the community. To continue though, I should have said, we're going to continue to provide speakers and interviewees until this group takes over. We're not just going to cut the cord. So, okay, thanks. Second year session. 1 and 2. Well,
Also, don't forget the people out there in Never Never Land.
I wanted to make two comments. One is on Molly's proposal. On Molly's proposal, which I think is right on. And I think I would like the council to really take it seriously. This is not a personal thing against Tom or John by any means. But I think that since the board of directors members do not represent the residents, but the resident council represents the residents, there's a conflict of interest to be both on the board of directors and to be on the resident council. And I think it's really critical that you all take that up. In terms of nominating an empty seat on the council, it just makes sense that everyone on the council should be involved. So I just wanted to say, I think Molly's proposal is very, very important, and I hope that you would consider it very seriously. The second quick thing I wanted to make on the goats, which it sounds terrific. I would only have, because I live in a cottage, I don't want to look at a fence. So I'm hoping that the fence will not be in my line of view. And the other thing is there will be an impact on the other wildlife that's there. There are some adorable little bunny rabbits, and occasionally there are foxes, and all of them will be gone when the goats come. And I'm not saying I'm against the goats, but I would like the physical plant committee just to consider those two items. Thank you.
Okay, we'll bring it down.
Actually, the goats are more in fear of the coyotes.
Hi, I'm Fred Walensky. I wanted to get back to the idea of the the policies and procedures regarding committees. I chair two committees, and it was said that the committees objected to those policies and procedures. I was never approached with any of my opinion, and I fully support having those policies and procedures. And also, Larry, your objection that we are all adults, with all due respect, I think is specious. Of course, we're all adults. And as adults, we all have our own opinions, our own methodology, our own goals. And therefore, when we get together as a group, we have to have some common guidelines that we all agree upon to follow. And removing all those guidelines just makes it chaos. How do committees operate? How do committee chairs get selected? Does somebody just say, I'm going to command this committee? Does the chair make all these decisions? Does the committee vote on all of this? Is the person who speaks the loudest and strongest and bullies their way through get their way? How is this all going to operate? I think it's short-sighted to remove all the policies and procedures. In fact, I think there could be more policies and procedures, including the idea of term limits for committee chairs. So that's my opinion. As a chair of two committees, I think that those policies and procedures are vital and should be considered to be put back and maybe even expanded upon. Fred, can I ask if either one of your committees has discussed term limits within your committees? No, it's never been brought up. Do you feel that you couldn't? And I'm not trying to pin you down. No, absolutely. I think it would be a good idea to bring it up. I would support term limits for committee chairs, actually. We just never thought of it. It was never brought up. But if it's addressed, if it's some question that's brought up by the council, I think it'd be a good idea for all committees to discuss it. Yeah, Margaret's got her hand up. I thought I saw another one. Or also.
Very quickly, this also deals with committees. I was in a committee the other day, and it's an IL committee, but they made the statement that residents of the health center could not serve on the committee. So that needs to be, to me, clarified. I mean, are residents of the health center eligible to serve on all committees? They're on the council, they're on other committees. But going along with what Fred is saying, this is should be a standard policy throughout all the committees. I don't think you can summarily say that members of the health center cannot serve on. I mean, I'm speaking from the health center. Members of the health center cannot serve on the committee. The other lighter note.
You look at her response on the first.
I'm just saying that it's not a problem to go along with what Fred.
There are no restrictions.
Well, okay, all right, but that was said. To go along with the goat discussion, if you want to see them in action, if you go to Farmers and Chefs and have lunch on the balcony, they have them in the, it must belong to the railroad. I don't know. There's a hill there, or the steep, raggedy hill. And we had view of two goats out there munching away while we were having lunch. So it was quite cute.
Where's that restaurant?
Farmers and Chefs.
The fencing is totally see-through for the goats.
Is it like a cyclone fencing? Is that-
It's not even,
It's like a chain link, but with bigger holes.
Yes.
Still.
Margaret, where is that restaurant?
It's right off the well, if you go north on Route 9, I think it's the next entrance, the next exit after that bridge. It's the next exit to there. It's on Albany Street. Yeah. It's really downtown Poughkeepsie. Used to be Andy's for those long-term Poughkeepsie people.
Larry has his.
I'm just curious, who said thou shalt not have any health center residents on the health.
I think she's choosing not to say. I think there's enough information out there to know.
If it's only one person,
It was a committee, and it was accepted in the committee as true.
I know who you're talking about.
Woodland Pond's policy, as I understand it, and this is maybe not written anywhere, but the policy of the corporation is that all committees are open to all residents,
That's what I
period.
understand.
You're right, you're both right. You're both right, somebody misspoke, well. Okay, having said that,
Move to adjourn.
accept the motion to adjourn. Second. Rejection, we're done at 11:20. Thank you all, thank you for your participation, and thank you for supporting Jason's concept, I think that's really gonna be good.
Fred?
John, I think.